A millionaire Parisian artist returned to his rural hometown wanting to hire someone to tend his neglected garden. To his surprise, the person who showed up for the job was his elementary school classmate. The two had once replaced their teacher's birthday candles with firecrackers and nearly got expelled. Now one had become a famous Parisian painter while the other was just an ordinary retired worker. Naturally, the artist gave the job to his old friend, not knowing this decision would change his life forever. The next day, the gardener showed up for work as promised, only to discover that the artist was currently separated from his wife. Even his only daughter was urging her mother to get a divorce. In contrast, the gardener and his wife were deeply in love. After 27 years of marriage, he had quit smoking and drinking for her, and they still took annual vacations to the seaside. Hearing about the gardener's life, the artist felt like he was seeing his complete opposite. He confided to the gardener that he and his wife had separated because while painting, he had twice been unable to resist getting involved with his models. Yet the only woman he truly loved was his wife, so why wouldn't she understand him? The gardener didn't answer the artist's question, instead asking why he had chosen to leave Paris and return to the countryside. The artist thought for a moment but refused to answer that question right then. From then on, the gardener came to work in the garden 3 days a week. He would bring bread for the artist and always remove his shoes before entering the house. The artist gradually became influenced by him, starting to prepare tea for the gardener who didn't drink alcohol or coffee, and even giving him a spare key when he occasionally had to return to Paris. Everything in the garden was getting better and better, but one day when the artist returned from Paris, he brought a woman with him. The gardener assumed she was the artist's wife and warmly greeted her, only to discover she was just the artist's student. The gardener didn't scold the artist, but when he encountered the woman again, he wasn't as enthusiastic as he had been the first time. The artist told the gardener that during his recent trip to Paris, he had discovered his father's secret painting room, filled with beautiful landscape paintings. It turned out his father had considerable artistic talent but had been forced to give up painting to support the family. He finally understood his father, and this was one of the reasons he had returned to the countryside. A month later, the gardener, who was never late, unexpectedly arrived an hour behind schedule. The artist didn't scold him, but the gardener was still deeply remorseful. He explained that everything was because of his son-in-law's unemployment. Now his daughter's family had lost their only source of income. The artist casually suggested that finding another job shouldn't be a problem, but in the gardener's eyes, jobs were as rare as tigers these days. The artist finally understood the gap between their worlds. He said nothing, but after the gardener turned to go back to work, he called one of his wealthy friends and quickly arranged a job for the gardener's son-in-law with a sports team. The next day, to thank the artist, the gardener brought him vegetables from his own garden and told him more about his family. But even the millionaire artist had his own troubles, and he finally revealed the ultimate answer to his problems.